Hey, Eastern Oregon, welcome to this April 4th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon, and we're also on Roku. How are you, man?
Morning. Second Monday.
Second Monday.
Yeah.
And the winter just keeps on plugging along.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you, I think was it yesterday morning or whatever it was like, this is real winter. I mean, we had some accumulation of the whole 9 yards.
That was today.
No, there was yesterday.
I wouldn't know about it.
Oh, that's right.
I was sleeping.
You were looking at the back of your eyelids yesterday morning. Yeah.
I didn't get up until like a little afternoon.
Yeah. But you had a long weekend.
I did, and I worked late on Sunday night.
Yeah.
What so today though, we got snow.
We do.
There's about that much snow on the back of my car.
Yeah. It's okay.
Know,
we keep, and it was, I mean, it happened several times yesterday too, but Sunday it would snow or that grapple stuff that Gabe would talk. Yeah. And then it would melt. And then an hour later it would accumulate another half an inch and then melt. And it's just the strangest weather.
I saw something somewhere yesterday that the high was 37 on April 3rd. The high. 37. That's cold.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have baseball games today. Where are you going to play those in the gym?
You think that's going to happen?
No.
Yeah.
There's no way. Not even on the turf.
Yeah. No. Well, do you want to do sports?
Let's do it. All right. Let's check out this comment first. TJ Jones, top of the morning to you too. Sports-wise, let's see. EOU softball won 2 of 3 of their games this weekend against Carroll. Kaylee Hoskins went 3-0 this last week with 41 strikeouts. She's the CCC Pitcher of the Week. She should be the NAIA National Player of the Week with those kind of numbers. I mean, she had 3 wins, 0 losses, didn't give any runs, and one of those wins was against the number 12 team in the country. So, I mean, she should be National Pitcher of the Week with numbers like that. We'll see. I think that comes out on Wednesday. EOU baseball lost all 4 again this weekend against British Columbia. Their struggles continue. They're 1-27 on the season.
Wow.
That's not good, BC.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I asked you yesterday, they're about halfway through the season.
About a little over halfway.
Yeah. So you'd be like, I don't know. You'd be like, man, let's just get this
I feel
over.
bad for the new coach and for the players, but hopefully they figure out a way to get it turned around.
Yeah. All right.
LHS baseball, they're supposed to play in Baker here today. Like I said, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. And then softball, LeGrand softball is supposed to play Baker here as well. And that doesn't look like it's going to happen. But I sat down with LHS senior softball player Ava Hedden. Here's a little clip of
What's your favorite thing about softball? What do you love about it?
I really love playing with the girls, like being able to bond with them. And we're all kind of just a family. We all get along together. We all have almost the same goals going into the season. It's just a very fun bonding time, and we create more friendships once we go along in the season.
Nice. Let's talk about you for a minute. What do you want to be when you grow up? What's your plans after high school?
After high school, I'm going to work. I'm not quite 18 yet, but I really want to go into real estate. So in August, I'm going to start studying for that. But before that, I'm working at ACE right now, and so I'll just keep working there. And then once I turn 18, I'll get that real estate license done.
You want to sell houses? Is that your plan?
Houses, properties, just see what I can do.
Yeah, so there's LHS senior softball player Ava Hedden. She's the only softball player that was a senior that wasn't either a basket or a winter sport athlete or a fall sport athlete as well. So I have every female senior athlete except for the tennis players done at LeGrand.
Cool.
For this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's such a cool thing, and what a great heritage for them.
Yeah, maybe we could put something together and play it at the that awards night when we give the scholarship for Doug Trice or something.
Yeah.
I mean, because we already have the highlight video of the first one, we could just add on to that. We have every single one from the from fall.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's cool. This week on the sports show, I have senior EOU softball player Haley Ebner, who's a 5th year senior up at EOU. She's graduated. She's got her teaching license. She's substituting and playing softball and going to school. And then I'm also going to have Cece Aguilera, which she just committed to go to Shaw University. She went to SWAC for soccer, and I had her on when I did her signing and had her on when she was still in high school. And now we're 2 years later, and she's transferring to a 4-year university in North Carolina to play soccer from her junior college, and she'll be on Thursday.
Cool.
Yeah. That's it for sports.
All righty. Let's take a look outside. It's cold, so yeah, kind of is what it is. Those of you who may or may not have been following our stuff, Gabe, our weatherman for the last 2.5 years, he's having surgery later this month, and after that, he's not going to be returning. He's got some other things. He's 18, and he's getting ready to go to college and some other stuff that he's working on. So we're going to miss Gabe, miss his weather reports, and wish you were here with us, Gabe. But we know that you'll be doing cool things in the future. He's had, you and I have talked about this, but he's already done, I think, 3 movies, and he's getting ready to do a 4th movie. And so crazy, because it's like we have people come in here all the time and say, hey, will you make a movie for us, or will you do this, or will you do that?
No.
And I phone, bro. Yeah, and I tell him like, well, you have a phone, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's like, well, Gabe shot and edited his first movie. I mean, it was a movie. It was a kid movie. He did it when he was a kid, but it was still 50 minutes long. He shot and edited the entire thing on his phone. And it's like, it reminds me of Spielberg. I mean, Spielberg did that kind of stuff when he was young like that.
I don't think he shot any movies on a phone.
No, he shot it on 8mm film. Yeah.
I don't think they had phones back then.
But still, he was like,
I think it was a little bit more innovative for Spielberg to do what he was doing than shooting a movie on your phone now.
No, it's very similar.
There's a lot of people shooting videos on their phone though nowadays. Back then, there wasn't a lot of kids shooting video with 8mm.
But there were a lot of grandparents that were shooting 8mm film.
Yeah,
and then editing it together.
Yeah, but not kids, not like Spielberg.
Well, right, but so I get the
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get the
there's not a lot of
yeah.
There's a lot of kids nowadays shooting video with their phone and editing.
The point is still the same. The point is you use whatever it is that you have available to you.
Yeah.
Even if it's cheap, and you go as far. I mean, there's no limit on your creativity.
Right. And
I can't tell you the number of people that are like, well, once I have the right equipment, once I have the right stuff, then, well, you can start with your creativity right now. So, yeah.
Well, and millions of people do. There's millions of kids with YouTube channels that have made movies.
Right.
I mean, there wasn't millions of Steven Spielbergs with 8mm cameras making movies.
Right.
So it's a little bit more innovative back then than
right.
Today.
Right. But the motivation is still those kids. The reason they're doing it is because Spielberg did it.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Right. And so, but the innovation is still the same. You can determine whether, I mean, things are easier now, but I mean, 10 years ago,
I'm gonna disagree with the innovation still being the same. Right? It's the there's nothing innovative about shooting a video on your phone nowadays because it's so easy that millions of kids are doing it.
Right. But 10 years ago.
Even 10 years ago.
No, 10 years ago, they weren't shooting on their phone. They were shooting with a video camera. Trust me, man, this is my game. Okay, I know
I get that. Yeah, but it still wasn't as innovative as Spielberg. Not even close.
No, but the motivation is the point. Yeah, I mean, I watched Spielberg early stuff too. I can tell you that there's a lot in common between somebody who is innovative when they're 12 and innovate. It doesn't matter how old they are. You know,
Yeah.
it takes a certain cut. And yes, it's more common now
way
than
more
what it was.
common. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Way more common.
Yeah.
Which it's just because it's easier.
Yeah.
It's not. You don't have to put as much effort into it as he did.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, like
Yeah.
he had that was cutting film. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and actually physically cutting film, right? And
Right.
putting it together. And
But there is something here that's very common in both things that most young filmmakers, people who call themselves a filmmaker, will not do. Okay, so to discipline, since we went here, let's break this down. Okay, so there's one thing in just shooting a video, somebody walking in the door and they're, you know, you follow them with the camera and then you edit it. Okay, it's a whole nother thing to you shoot the guy and he grabs the handle and you have a close up of the handle and then you have a wide shot and then you have, okay, that's real filmmaking. Okay, and that discipline is the same now as what it was before.
yeah, but there's way more people doing it.
No, I mean, there might be more people doing
Way
it,
more.
but there's a lot of laziness of people who they are not planning the shot ahead of time.
Right, but there's still way more just because there's so much more access to.
Yeah.
You like you said,
Yeah.
you can do it on a phone. Everybody has a phone.
You're choking on a mustard seed to get missed. Right?
I'm saying
Yeah.
that it's not as cool to be a filmmaker today as it was for Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Well,
just because there's so much more opportunity now.
Right. But okay. But what is my point?
I have no idea.
Yes, you do. You know the
I
point.
don't.
I've said it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The point is that if you allow the lack of technology to limit your creativity, then there's no excuse for that. Okay. So if you say, well, I mean, and that's, remember I said this all started with me saying we have people coming in and saying, well, I want to do a movie.
Yeah. And you
I
say you got a phone.
You got a phone.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so the point is if there's a lot of people out there that think that they're creative, but they're lazy. They won't use what it is that they have to explore their creativity.
We're arguing 2 different points. That's what it is.
Dude,
We're arguing 2 different points.
I brought it up. It's my point.
Okay. You compared Gabe to Steven Spielberg.
Well, and I think that's a fair comparison.
I disagree with that
Okay.
because of technology.
I think I compare,
and that's not taking anything away from Gabe.
No, I
at all.
compare any young filmmaker, again, who breaks down a shot and shoots a sequence of shots to tell a story. You shoot a close-up, and you shoot so you're shooting the same, you're having that person walk in the door multiple times, and each time you're shooting it from different angles.
Yeah.
That's filmmaking, and that's storytelling. Okay. And there's a large percentage of people out there who call them filmmakers, but they don't even have the discipline to do that.
But that's not what my argument. My argument is you can't compare Gabe to Steven Spielberg because Steven Spielberg didn't have the tools that people have today. It wasn't the same. Not everybody had a phone back then.
Yeah.
He had to be innovative in a different way.
Yeah.
He had to get an actual camera. You know what I mean? Like very, very few people probably had 8mm cameras back then. Not near as many who have phones. Probably not near as many who have good digital cameras, right? Yeah. And so he had to be more innovative back then than anybody today. Like even us.
Yeah.
Like because we have these. Like you said, we can shoot a whole film on this.
Right. But the creative aspect of it is absolutely the same. The discipline of breaking down a sequence of shots is something that very few, I mean, even if you looked at, there's a lot more, it's a lot more common, but still it's a discipline thing. That's what I'm talking about. So for a 12-year-old, whether it's Steven Spielberg or Gabe, to discipline themselves, to break down a sequence is what I'm saying.
There's way more of them, people like that today than there was back then too.
Right. So there's a lot of 12-year-olds that are just shooting willy-nilly, and they don't have the discipline. Of course,
there probably was then too, but not as many.
Yeah,
not like today. There's probably a million 12-year-olds that have made a movie today.
No, for sure. Spielberg is unique. I mean, there's nobody like him, but the uniqueness of that.
Good morning, John from Doofer. He lives in Duford now. He moved. And Bud's here too. Good morning, Bud. All right. That's good enough on Spielberg. I'm not even really a Spielberg fan. I just think of it like what he was doing at the time when he was a kid was like
totally unique.
Yeah, there was. I doubt there was any other people his age doing that. Like maybe a few.
Yeah,
very few. Right? I mean, because he was like.
Well,
way
I mean,
ahead
I
of his
think
time.
it wasn't unheard of for a kid. I mean, Spielberg's a little older than I. For someone to get an 8mm film and shoot it and edit it together, I never would have thought of that in a million years. So,
morning, Dana.
Yep.
Bud says his parents had an 8mm and tons of footage, and they never organized it into them. I think that's probably 90% of people that had an 8mm, right?
Yeah.
Like you just kept it on the reel and watched it. Like,
the only editing they would do is because the actual cameras would only record about 4 minutes worth. And so they would take all those little 4-minute things and put them in, just
stick them together.
In one reel. Yeah.
I remember that from my grandpa.
That was about the extent of editing.
We better get this guy on here. He's in a
We
hurry.
better. All right. Well, hey, so Nick Vora, Union County Emergency Manager, hang on just a sec, is with us here. And he'll be with us right after this thing. All right, we're back with Nick Vora, Union County Emergency Services Manager. Something is that pretty
That's
close?
Close enough.
Yeah, I mean, I know you do a ton of stuff, a ton of variety of different stuff. You're also involved in Union County Search and Rescue.
Yeah, so I'm a search and rescue coordinator for
Okay.
the sheriff's office.
Okay, and so you were with Cody just not too long ago when we had a Keeping It Clear with Cody, Bo, and Joe. But for those that might not have seen that, kind of catch us up. How did you get here? Where were you? I mean, give me your life story in a thumbnail.
So I grew up in Minnesota and moved to Central Oregon when I was in middle school. Then ended up ultimately in LeGrand for college. And after graduating college and working for the U.S. Department of Agriculture for about a decade. And ultimately, prior to leaving that agency, was a rangeland management specialist. So I worked with farmers and ranchers on a variety of conservation projects, but more specifically related to rangeland production, animal agriculture. During that time, I had started volunteering with Search and Rescue, become a reserve deputy with the sheriff's office, became an EMT and a firefighter with the LeGrand Rural Fire District, was an EMT and still am an EMT casual with the City of LeGrand Fire Department. So doing those things, and then had an opportunity to apply for the emergency manager job here, and ended up transitioning careers and making all my volunteer hobbies my career.
Wow, that, I mean, and that was, I think you and I we've touched a couple of times over the last several years, had very small conversations and stuff, but the other day was the very first extended length of time. And the thing that everybody says is just the amount of experience that you have, or maybe it's the hunger for knowledge, just the hunger. I mean, maybe talk about that. How did you what drives a person to go from range management to, I mean, talk about that a little bit.
So I've always been interested in emergency services type things. I was the typical kid who wanted to be a firefighter when he was growing up, wanted to be a cop when he was growing up. So when I was 9 years old, I had my own fire department. You remember those? You still see them around, those folding luggage dollies that people would put suitcases on at airports. So I had a bunch of those that I put garden hoses and different like milk crates full of stuff on. And those are my fire.
You were your own portable little firefighter.
So, and I like went to thrift stores and got clothes that I thought looked like firefighting gear. And that's what, I mean, and there's just like winter clothes. I would put reflective duct tape on them.
Your parents have any of those pictures?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So I'd always kind of been that kid, so to speak. And then when I was initially going to college, I was trying to figure out really what I should do, where to go in that regard. And at that point, the economy was not very good. A lot of the public safety sector agencies were laying off people. So I chose to go into what was something else. I had done quite a bit of ranch work, and I really enjoyed working with animals, riding horses, working cows, that type of stuff. So I ended up going, that's what brought me into rangeland management and ecology. So then I got back into the emergency services stuff is kind of when I had an opportunity.
So you went toward the rangeland stuff because that was fiscally responsible. I mean, that kind of made sense. But that's it. You knew that you could get a job in that area.
Yes, and also I find it very interesting. I am also your stereotypical nerd that like I love, a good spreadsheet and maps and all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed the scientific aspect of my job, and I did a lot of work related to weed management, studies with new herbicides, and different fire studies and things like that. Was involved with some college student programs through Oregon State University, and I stayed very involved with OSU while working for the federal government. So I found that super interesting, and I definitely enjoy the science aspect of things as well.
Huh.
He said, I love a good spreadsheet.
I love a good spreadsheet. See, I'm a total nerd too, but it's more wires and stuff like that. It's like spreadsheets are like far from my nerd high.
Yeah, me too. No.
But you're a numbers guy.
I'm good with, I love numbers, but like I don't like it organized numbers.
Yeah.
Like just give me a piece of paper and I'll get, I can handle that. But like the organized columns, like,
yeah. So what's the difference between what you did and being a county agent? And did you guys run a lot in the same circles?
So I worked, the agency that I worked with was called the Natural Resources Conservation Service.
Okay.
So I worked almost exclusively with private landowners on projects. So similar to a county extension agent as far as providing technical advice on things. But my agency, we also had cost share funding available. So I would oftentimes, that was what would initiate the conversation where a landowner would come into the door saying, hey, saw advertisement that there was funding available maybe for a weed project or pre-commercial forest thinning or irrigation system improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd meet with them, see what they had going on, and then come up with some technical recommendations and see maybe we would just provide them technical advice, but oftentimes we're able to assist them with implementing whatever it was to achieve a conservation benefit or a wildlife habitat benefit.
Interesting.
So then you came to, location-wise, you came to EOU. And did you stay here or did you go?
Yeah, so I was working in Burns during the summers, my first 2 summers in college. And I was in the OSU agriculture program here at EOU. And Then when I graduated, I ended up getting placed here in LeGrand,
Okay.
and I stayed here and it will significantly because of the partnerships that I had with OSU is why they chose to place me here.
Cool.
Well, and it worked out for you. Were you already volunteering at the time?
No, actually,
Oh, you hadn't started.
I've waited to kind of see where I had gotten
Where you
placed.
landed,
Mhm.
yeah.
Because I was in a program where I didn't necessarily know where I was going to get my career placement. So I waited, and then as soon as I knew where I was going to land, I signed up for search and rescue.
Allison Moore says, "Go Nick."
You
know her?
Yep.
Well, and I talked to, so my son-in-law is Kyle Whitty, and so since the Cody Bowen show, I mean, I was with Kyle and and Kyle's assessment was Nick is the bomb. That's Nick is the bomb. He gets us stuff that's what Kyle's is like. The resources that by stuff he meant things that makes the job easier for them to do as frontline people, and so yeah, you're well liked, but at the same time you are like the thing. I mean, so now break this down. So break down what you get paid for, but the amount of things that you do. I mean, because I don't know, help us understand.
Okay, so yeah. So my day job and my formal job title, I'm the county emergency manager.
Okay.
So the county has an emergency services department that is one full-time employee being myself and one half-time employee. So we are the county emergency services, and through my role there, the emergency services department is planning and for emergencies, contingency plans, response plans. Involves a lot of securing grants then to implement those plans. Also continuity. So for example, continuity of operations, the county emergency operations plan. We're currently revising both of those as part of the update. So that's a little bit more on the kind of the big picture, step back side of things. And then day to day, I also manage the county's public safety radio system as far as from troubleshooting things when they're not working right to also looking down the road, implementing improvements. Right now, we're on the front end of the very large system overhaul. So do that. And then also assisting a lot of volunteer agencies. The primary one that I interact with through the sheriff's office is being the search and rescue coordinator, SAR. So being the coordinator for SAR, I work with all the volunteers. I help them as far as with equipment. I'm the primary contact for missions. We had 2 last week, most recently one at 3:50 this morning. So that as far as SAR goes, then also I still assist to the extent I can with law enforcement through the sheriff's office. And then I am a lieutenant with the Rural Fire District as a volunteer, which is somewhat wrapped into my role in emergency services. And then separate from all of that, I help out the City of LeGrand Fire Department when I can, if they're like staff callbacks and things like that for ambulances.
So I think I saw on your Facebook page yesterday, and you said when I'm not busy, when I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm sleeping, and so do you ever sit and watch a movie or watch TV or any of that? Do you have any, or is it just like you do these stuff and then you crash until the next moment?
It might pain you guys as media people to hear this, but I don't own a TV. I have never actually owned a TV in my life. But what I do in my recreation time is woodworking. I used to be a commercial cabinet maker. And when I was in high school, I think it was 24 restaurants that I did.
Wow.
And in Bend. And then that's kind of, I have my own little shop still. I do try to do like 3D pattern cutting boards and jewelry boxes and things like that's my recreation.
Yeah, but how much do you actually get to do it with your current schedule?
Not a heck of a lot.
I worked in a custom cabinet shop for 2 years. We made the cabinets for Dr. Phil, for Oprah.
Awesome.
Yeah, for
That's
their
really
sets.
cool.
Yeah, I did setup, so it was a big shop. You know what I mean? So like you had to work it. You didn't get to build the entire cabinet yourself. I just cut all the pieces for all the non-finished pieces for the cabinet. It was kind of fun.
Cool.
I learned a lot.
It's
So you don't have a TV, but you have a phone. How much
Yeah.
of your? I mean, I texted you yesterday, and you texted back fairly quickly. So, I mean, so do you? I mean, so I'm really interested. What do you watch? Do you watch anything on your phone?
Again, going back to
Yeah.
being a nerd,
Yeah.
I really enjoy. There's a couple channels on YouTube that I follow, like some engineering channels and stuff like that. Like where I'm kind of into history, so I watch a lot of history documentaries, but also kind of how stuff works. Last night before I went to bed, I watched a documentary on how control modules work for step motors, if you really want to know.
Yeah. Well, I don't watch TV either outside of sports. I do have a TV, but you'll never find TV on it.
Yeah.
It's either a YouTube or a documentary. I
Yeah.
don't ever watch outside of sports. I don't watch any TV shows. I watch all documentaries or how to, like kind of like you, how to make things or how to do things. If I want to know I fixed my car, my washer and dryer. You know what I mean?
Oh
like,
yeah,
you don't even have to pay anybody to fix things anymore because you can follow step by step on a YouTube video.
Oh gosh, yeah, I make use of that all the time.
Yeah, it's super effective too. It's like I replaced. There's this gasket in the washer in between like where it connects to the motor for the agitator, and it goes out and it causes your washer to be off balance and and I just followed a YouTube video all the way through, and it would have cost me probably a couple $100 to get it fixed by a washing machine, dude.
I know, it's pretty crazy.
Yep.
So, how do you keep track of the hats? I mean, is there ever a time when you're like in a SARS situation or whatever it might be, and it's like, well, wait a minute, this is something I got to switch roles for a minute? I mean,
yeah, we're really fortunate that here in Union County, the agencies that we have, we all work together really well. We're not like there's no turf wars or like where people need to be like, oh, this is my incident or something like that. It's everybody works so well together that if I respond, say, with the fire department to a fire and something ends up, scope of the incident changes where maybe some things fall into an emergency management type aspect, I can just kind of switch into those roles or simultaneously operate kind of as needed, switch back and forth. So given all the relationships that we have here, it makes it pretty easy to accomplish that.
You wouldn't be able to do that in a big city.
In a big city, my job wouldn't exist, because
right.
there would be a dozen people
on
doing, somebody would be doing radio management, another person would be doing search and rescue, other people doing fire, and just yeah.
But that's very interesting. I mean, for you, I'm sure the variety is really appealing.
It's the best part.
Yeah, and I mean, when I did professional media in the past, you were just a photographer or just a videographer or just an editor, and unless you were a producer, you really didn't have your nose in all of those aspects of it. But being a sole proprietor, and sometimes that's exhausting. I mean, sometimes I'm working on computer issues that an IT guy should be working on when there's a project that needs to be done and out the door, but the variety is very interesting, because there's just a lot to it. Yeah,
it's probably one of the most challenging things as far as time management, where there's a lot of people who don't necessarily fully understand that what I'm doing for other people too. Where I ask for something, and it's like, well, I'll do it when I can, but there might be 5 other people asking me for completely unrelated things. So it's a challenge as far as from the customer service standpoint, but also it's, I'd say, one of the most fun parts of the job, to be able to do all the different things.
So let's drill down to the emergency services part of it, because and I want you to talk about generally kind of what that involves, but I have a specific question. So we have these catastrophic failures in communication. And I mean, like when you look at 9/11, outside of the tragedy of what it was and the mark that it will leave on all of us for the rest of our lives and for generations, the one thing that was exposed is emergency services people couldn't talk to each other. And so, I mean, talk a little bit about maybe how those kinds of incidences have changed what it is that you do.
So coming from 9/11 to where we are right now, there, as you mentioned, we learned a lot of really hard lessons about interoperability is the term that we use for it, being able to communicate with each other. And some of the things that came out of that is not having a lot of specialized codes that only your agency knows, and having radio systems that are compatible. So one of the things that has been set up in Union County that I was lucky to inherit it, and I'm able to continue to maintain it, is a radio system that all of our partners have common access to. And we also have multiple redundancies. So for example, we have a radio system for fire, a radio system for law, and then we have one that's essentially a backup. So if either of those were to fail, they could switch, or they could both switch to it to communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. And we just updated a radio programming where now all of the agencies in Union County have the ability to talk to, everyone has the ability to talk to each other. And they have in the past as well. We've just solidified that a little bit more with some programming changes. And as far as talking to neighboring counties too, we currently have the ability to communicate with all of our neighboring dispatch centers via radio, as well as responders from neighboring counties.
So like their walkie-talkie.
Yes.
You can get on your walkie-talkie and talk to Pendleton.
Yes, Umatilla County's a few intermediate steps that need to be done by their dispatch center, just based on some technical features of their system. But yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
But those are triggers. Those are things that are put in place when the emergency constitutes that it does that, right? I mean,
specific with Umatilla County, yeah. But the other counties are things that are existing
all the time.
And
you can just get on there and say, I need to talk to somebody in Baker.
And that would be from our dispatch center. Right. Now, from a radio range standpoint, right. If our people go to Baker, then they can talk to Baker County.
Got it.
But just our range from Union County inherently, you can't.
The radio's only so far.
Yeah, but our dispatch center has the ability to communicate through multiple means. So via phone, via teletype, via radio with other dispatch centers. So
I know that right now all of that traffic from a radio standpoint is on one frequency. I mean, so if somebody tunes to that frequency, and any public can do that, you can hear calls from all of those different agencies. How do you, when there's something really emergent going on, how do you sort that out? How do you help that not be like really confusing?
So we have what we use are called tactical channels. So there's fundamentally the way our radio system is built. We have repeated channels. So you're talking to a mountaintop, and it retransmits it. Mm-hmm. And then there's what we call the tactical channels. That is just me talking directly back and forth to you. There's no other infrastructure in place. And so what we'll do on an incident is initially when people are responding, coordinating the response, will be on one of our repeated networks, which, as you mentioned, can get quite busy if we have multiple agencies and units talking. And then once we get on scene, we'll shed that traffic to a tactical channel. And we may need to use multiple. For example, if there's a large structure fire, might have some operations on one tactical channel, maybe water supply is on a different one, and then a command channel that's repeated is what the incident commander is using to talk to dispatch, so that they don't have to listen to all the chatter on the scene. So,
and those are all through the radios that those firefighters are carrying to the. Yeah,
so our the radios that our first responders carry Most of them have at least 6 banks of 16 different channels. So 6 times 16, that's a lot of different
Variety, yeah,
things,
It's
and that
96.
all is based on where your area of operation is, what repeaters are out there. But
Interesting.
yeah, so and I'm a total radio geek. You can go down a very slippery slope when you get me starting to talk about radios. This show could go on for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so now let's pull back a little bit. Talk about what does an emergency manager do? I mean, so I'm presuming that part of that is planning in case of a catastrophe that happens in different stages. I don't know. Talk about what it is that why is that important to Union County, and what do you do?
So an example, my day yesterday, came into the office, and I initially started working on updating our box alarms for our fire dispatching.
Box alarms?
So the way our box alarms work, we have areas by jurisdiction that have predetermined resources that are dispatched to different types of incidents. So it comes from, in the eastern US, there would be actually a box on the corner where you would pull an alarm prior to phone systems.
Okay.
And then they'd say, oh, someone just pulled an alarm at box
Whatever.
box 27.
Yeah.
So don't know what the emergency is, but the fire agencies go to box 27 and see what's going on. So that's where the term comes from.
Okay.
But we have, based on geographically, when a call comes in, the 911 dispatchers can see where it is. They know what box it's in. So they dispatch predetermined agencies that are through existing mutual aid agreements. Rather than sending just one agency, we send multiple right out the door to try and mitigate whatever that emergency is as soon as we can.
And be a little bit faster.
Yeah, rather than waiting for someone to get on scene to wait to ask for assistance.
Yeah.
So sometimes you might not even have a specific address. I mean, you really do, but the fire, the crews that are getting ready, they already know they're going to a particular area of town.
Yeah, or a particular area of the county.
Right,
Our boxes are not quite that small. It's
Right.
more like, for example, the city of LeGrand is one box.
Okay, got it.
And then, but within that, there's residential alarms, commercial alarms, different resources are dispatched to those. But so I was working, because I've been working with the fire chiefs. Obviously, it's their system, and I'm just working to facilitate getting that updated with dispatch, which is run through the City of LeGrand Police Department. So started working on that. Then I had a phone call with Veterans Affairs, one of their hospital emergency management staff, on some risk management stuff that they were working on for their clinics, because they have a clinic in LeGrand. Worked on that, then worked on some search and rescue radios, doing a bunch of reprogramming. Had dealt with a dozen or 24 different emails related to things, related to grant applications, on some plans that we're updating. Worked out some logistics on a county facility for defense tactics training that the sheriff's office is going to do. Then had a search and rescue meeting in the evening, and then today we'll be moving on to things totally different. Tomorrow I'm doing incident command training with staff at the hospital. And so a different thing all the time.
Fun.
Wow. So the bigger, the 30,000 foot version of what emergency, so those are, what would they say as your job description?
So at the very high level, there's the terms of preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery to incidents. So if we can, through emergency management, try to prepare agencies with the resources that they need to respond to something when it happens, such as writing grants for equipment, writing plans for response, such as how to respond to a mass casualty incident, those types of things. That falls under preparedness. Maybe mass sheltering. Where are people going to go? What facilities do they go to? What do we need to shelter them in different facilities? And then the mitigation, maybe we identify some hazards. Maybe it's flooding, wildfire, whatever it might be, would be trying to get the resources to maybe do some tactical or very strategic wildfire prevention, maybe creating fire-wise communities, working with landowner groups to create defensible space around their homes, maybe securing grants, or, for example, I've recently written a grant trying to get a masticator head for some equipment that County Public Works owns to maintain road right-of-ways, things like that on the mitigation side. And then response side is what we've already talked quite a bit about. That's where, you know, the incident happens, responding to it, managing it, getting people together and facilitating their communication and their success in the response. And then recovery would be afterwards, as far as assessing what damage occurred, what the extent of it is, and did people's homes get destroyed? Do we need to find them alternate places to live? How long do we need to find them places to live? Were roads or infrastructure damaged? What are we going to need to repair that? And a lot of that is communicating with the partner agencies on how are you affected and what do you need to be made whole again.
Wow.
And so that's kind of at the very high level.
Right.
Those terms describe my
So then
job.
that description then allows you the variety. It allows you to zoom in and work on radios, or allows you to, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how that would be very entertaining. Entertaining is not quite the right, but it'd be the variety of it would, I mean, seems like you love your job. You like what you're doing.
I love it.
Yeah, and you're enthusiastic about it. Not everybody is enthusiastic about the worst possible scenario. And I mean, and I'm sorry that may be a little bit labeled, but the point is that you're always out there trying to think about how would we mitigate an awful situation, and how are we going to overcome that and help that? Yeah. So,
and a lot of what makes my job not incredibly stressed, because it seems like when you describe it, it would be like, oh, my job, that sounds like the most stressful job in the world. But based on all of the pre-existing relationships and partnerships that agencies and a lot of private organizations have in Union County. For example, my relationship with you. If I were to, in some emergency, for example, be like, I really need an aerial view of something, like, who can I call? Oh, I could call Brent. Things like that, where just having that takes a lot of the stress, knowing that I can call people and they're going to drop whatever they're doing and be like, Nick, what can I do to help you out?
Yeah.
And that really is what makes my job.
Isn't that crazy
easy.
how in this world, it's a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. So weird.
Well, and that's incredibly rewarding about Eastern Oregon, is the connectiveness that you have.
So
yeah,
rewarding.
I mean, my family makes fun of me because I'm like, don't you know a guy? And it's like, yeah, I know a guy. I mean, and so because and that's incredibly helpful, especially in some kind of an emergent situation.
For sure.
Yeah. So just one last thing. So is there a time we can think, I mean, a huge part of what you're doing is problem solving. I mean, whatever it might be, you're showing up on a scene, somebody's down over a cliff, stuck somewhere, or whatever it might be, Is there ever a time when you've been in a particular situation? It's like, oh yeah, I learned this not when I was on the farm somewhere, and this is what I mean. Is there ever a time that you can think of where something from some experience in a totally unrelated situation has, and
it's not just one time, it's all the time, where especially around in rural areas, the type of equipment or things that you'll encounter on an emergency scene, where it's like, we need to get this tractor out of the way. It's like, no, okay, I need to go, or from things as simple as that to maybe understanding how a piece of equipment works, or for example, or going back to my previous career in natural resources, a lot of our hazards are natural, be it flooding, wildfire, things like that. And having a career in natural resources really, and also pre-existing relationships with farmers in the area, that all really helps.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, Nick, thanks so much for
Appreciate
jumping
it.
in today.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much for having me
Yeah.
on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, always a great conversation, and we'll have you back if you don't mind.
Yep.
So,
I'd love to be back.
all righty. Well, thanks. We'll be right back right after that. All right, thank you. We're back,
We're back.
and our Facebook feed might have quit, and if that's the case, we'll re-upload the segment so that people can see us, because that was very interesting, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wide
fun.
variety of just a ton of experience.
Yep. Fun
All right,
stuff.
what do you want to get us out of here?
Let's do it. On this day, March 4th, or it's April.
April
Oh,
4th,
dude.
man.
April 4th. April 4th. 1789, the first U.S. Congress begins their regular sessions during George Washington's presidency at Federal Hall in New York City.
Wow.
First U.S. Congress.
What year? again?
1789. 1841, Vice President John Tyler becomes the 10th president of the United States after what happened, BC? Why was Vice President John Taylor made the president of the United States?
What
the
year
10th
again?
president. 1841.
President.
William Harrison died while he was in office.
Oh,
I think that's only happened a few times.
yeah.
Yeah, like assassination. He died. I don't remember how he died, but he
Yeah.
died while he was in office. 1917, U.S. Senate agrees 82-6 to participate in World War I. 1917, 82-6. I wonder who those 6 people were.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was
Yeah.
one of the people that said we shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
1968 on this day. This is a very important date in history in 1968, BC. What happened?
68.
Yeah.
1968.
It happened in Memphis, Tennessee.
So something with civil rights.
Yeah. Martin Luther King got assassinated.
Oh,
on this
okay.
day.
Yep.
And then the riots broke out in over 100 cities
Wow.
on the same day. 1973 on this day, the World Trade Center, then the world's tallest building, opened in New York, which was later destroyed in 9/11.
Wow.
The World Trade Center on this day, 1973. And then 2022 on this day, Elon Musk bought the majority of Twitter stock, making him the company's largest shareholder. Elon Musk, Twitter. Yeah. That's so crazy. Like the guy is so odd. He's the oddest person on the planet. He's doing something right. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Number one song in the country on this day in 1973, Killing Me Softly by Roberta Flack. And then the quote for the day. Let's go Martin Luther King. The ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. One more time. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Martin Luther King Jr.
All right. Thank you, Eastern Oregon.
Yeah, see you on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, Stu Spence will be right here with us.
We're going to have to turn his mic down.
Yeah. Parks, yeah, enthusiasm. He's got he'll be right here with us. Stu is the Parks, LeGrand Parks Department chair. So, all right.
See you then.